Hello, this is Ben Morgan again with the Modern Redneck, and I am, of course, Ben, the Modern Redneck. And we keep you in the know but off the radar. So today I'm going to talk about a paper I actually wrote the second semester of my freshman year in college at Oxford College of Emory University. And it's regarding, and you're not going to believe this, um, I'll give you the exact title. Harry Potter and the Muckraker's Pen, a satire on the modern media. Now, I wrote this final draft March 21st, 2015. And, yeah, there are things I would change about it now. Woke and DEI hadn't really entered the lexicon yet. Probably would have thrown that in there somewhere, as well as talked about how unelected bureaucrats are really quite a problem in our government today, and how they work with the tech industrial complex, if you want to call it that. Google and Facebook, Meta, all that, TikTok, all that. How they work together and with the government to obfuscate some truth and just downright lie about some things. But it was a good paper for the time. A lot of these things hadn't really come to light yet. Podcasts hadn't really gotten off the ground, and I mainly took this class. I actually didn't like Harry Potter, and I made that known. But the professor, Dr. Ivy, I had her for my freshman lit, and I really liked her. She really helped me improve my writing. So I told her I don't even like Harry Potter, but I'll take the class because you're teaching it. And she said, "Oh, okay, you don't like it? All right, well, I will make an extra spot just for you." And this pissed off a lot of people. It didn't help that they knew I was independent with conservative leanings. Um, anything right of far left is pretty pretty taboo on college campuses like that, liberal arts colleges. Um, so yeah, there are things I would change. I got a lot of flack for taking the class because so many people wanted that class, and they made us take like a 225 question survey at the beginning of the class, and it turned out that I was 98% Gryffindor and 2% Slytherin, and that was it. Nothing else in the mix. Totally shocked Dr. Ivy. But I mean, this was a great class. My granddad was a fan of the series actually, and I really looked up to him. Another good thing about taking this class was that I knew he already had all the books. I wouldn't have to buy any books, so that was a bonus. So I did I read through this once, just so you're just gonna hear the audio while I'm reading it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Modern Redneck. Every bit helps. If you comment, I will try to get back to you. Keep it classy. That's all I gotta say. Enjoy. Harry Potter and the Muckraker's Pen, a satire on the modern media. All media tends towards muckraking and yellow journalism. J.K. Rowling argues that the media becomes a selfish, malevolent entity when solely driven to increase sales and promote political agendas instead of truth or reason. Exhibiting massive influence and capable of manipulating and deceiving the masses to distort reality, yellow journalism is denoted by the use of sensationalism, exaggeration, fear or scandal mongering, fraudulent interviews, and other unethical techniques employed by muckrakers, aka most journalists in our case. Rowling introduces Rita Skeeter in the fourth book of the Harry Potter series, as the media shifts from informative yet slightly pesky and intrusive at times to a malevolent entity that is selfish, dangerously influential, and manipulative. Rita Skeeter is a representation of the mainstream media and muckraking as a harmful influence in the community and its negative tendencies. It is possible to view Rita Skeeter as merely a comical character initially, but I believe she is a representation for the unwieldy and massive influence of the media, which is a real concern in our society, especially when controlled by one particular group. The incitement caused by some of Rita Skeeter's articles is comparable to that of the late 19th century muckrakers that were partly responsible for inciting the Spanish American War. To be completely candid with you, I had never liked the Harry Potter series until I discovered the substance within. The hardest part of writing this paper was deciding on only one point in which to categorize certain quotes, since many could have been used in all three of my points. J.K. Rowling argues that muckrakers practicing yellow journalism for the sake of entertaining and increasing sales revenue are greedy demons seeking to mislead humanity. Muckrakers are like dementors, soulless creatures whose only goal is to suck the life out of all by removing all hope for joy and innocence from our society. The media is a selfish entity fueled by competition and the degradation of others. Rowling utilizes Rita Skeeter to symbolize this evil within our modern media. She is the embodiment of the common muckraker, or possibly an exceptional one in my mind, with the way she can conceive a story without regard for what is actually said in an interview, or truth in general, all with her floating quick quotes quill. Peter's description of herself before her interview with Harry, prior to the weighing of the wands, displays self-promoting asinine institution that is the modern media. Attractive blonde Rita Skeeter, 43, whose savage quill has punctured many inflated reputations. This quote personifies the spirit of the modern media. Her statement embodies the selfish, vain soul of the modern media. Her appearance is flashy, her statements are sharp yet without substance. Her goal to seek the demise of the reputations of others. Her desire for the truth is non-existent. It is a common yet appropriate colloquialism. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, which sums up our modern media quite well. Her description of herself foreshadows that she will soon attempt to humble Harry, as my belligerent, slightly older brother would call it, whether or not Harry needs humbling. In her interview with Harry shortly after, she doesn't ask Harry the hard questions. She merely tries to bait Harry with her questions in an attempt to get a rise out of him and have some juicy material to take out of context in her next article. She does this since Harry is already, however unwanted and reluctantly believed by Harry, a notable figure, and any story about Harry would immediately create an interest in her article among the wizarding communities. Questions such as, do you think that perhaps you were tempted to enter the Triwizard Tournament because are prime examples of Rita Skeeter trying to bait Harry for even more trivial questions later on, even though she knows it would be impossible for him to enter his own name into the Goblet of Fire due to Dumbledore's implementation of an restriction hex, which is an age ring, since Harry is not an experienced wizard or 17 years old yet. She tries to sensationalize trivial matters despite truth or reason, which the media and muckrakers excel at in order to increase readership. The profit exists to sell itself. A great example of this is the coverage of the Triwizard Tournament by the Daily Prophet, and is similar to how our media exaggerates the importance of televised sports and celebrities in order to provide themselves with material for articles playing to their readers' trivial interest. The Ferguson incident with Darren Wilson and Michael Brown was inflamed by reporters before having any real knowledge, and panned to the general public's lack of knowledge of the events prior. The muckrakers in our media intentionally stirred the pot, causing riots, endangering Darren Wilson and his family, and prevented an impartial investigation from being able to be conducted by the FBI before becoming a divisive political topic, which prevented the actual truth from being discovered, whether or not he was innocent. This incident suffered from overcoverage and sensationalism to such a degree, such as that of the wizarding world of Harry Potter, coupled with the intensified amount of devastation as 10 sporting event riots. In much the same way as Rita Skeeter wrote her articles, causing insurmountable destruction within the Ferguson community and the nation, and created doubt regarding the men and women that protect and serve, putting their lives on the line each day in order to keep law and order the best they can in our society. Rowling argues that the media's massive sphere of influence is an unwieldy double-edged sword in the hands of an inexperienced youth lacking tact with questionable morals, unconcerned for themselves or others. It is dangerous and undiscerning between friend from foe. Truth is no longer the truth, it is merely what the majority is told to be the actual truth, which is easy when you take the media's massive sphere of influence into consideration, as visible in the Harry Potter series. In the fifth book, the reader observes the effect of the media's influence, turning friends and families against each other. Seamus exclaims that his mother, who Harry met and thought kindly of previously, did not want him to return to Hogwarts because of articles published by the Daily Prophet that attempted to discredit Dumbledore's and Harry's reports of Voldemort's return. As these reports were neither pleasing to the public nor the powers that be, i.e., the Ministry of Magic, Seamus, who knew Harry as a noble friend, was starting to have his doubts about Harry's sole eyewitness account and Dumbledore's judgment in his old age after recently being stripped of some of his titles. The most shocking display of media influence to me was Percy's disowning his family and his apparent disdain for both Harry and Dumbledore, who he knew and has known for years. Harry is an example of an innocent and somewhat helpless individual prone to malicious victimization by the media. Muckrakers excel at victimizing the innocent and naive to increase sales or push political agendas, which is child's play when you look at the access they possess to such a dangerously influential outlet. Muckrakers are like a disease infecting the media, spreading fear and doubt within a community by using its large sphere of influence to further spread the infection. Rita Skeeter is not meant to represent one person. She is meant as the embodiment of the modern media and muckrakers practicing yellow journalism. The Quibbler represents the media outside the mainstream. In other words, a small and insignificant publication taking an independent stance free of corporate or government influence. Even the quibbler falls victim to infection by the mainstream media because it battles for attention to compete with the media giants with sensationalized articles such as notorious mass murderer or innocent singing sensation that end up dismissing its public image and discrediting its honestly important articles in the minds of the public. Until the sixth book in the Harry Potter series, the fact of the matter that the magical world was kept hidden from the Muggle world appeared to be the most advantageous arrangement for both parties, with the exception of Sirius's escape from Azkaban in the third book, when he was still thought to be a mass murderer of over a dozen Muggles. In the sixth book of the series, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the magical world begins to affect the Muggle world as it crosses into the Muggle realm in a noticeable fashion with an actual physical presence felt in the Muggle world as an unusual countrywide gloom, a freak hurricane, an unexplained bridge collapse, mysterious murders, and other odd occurrences, such as uprooted trees, roofs torn off, and bent lampposts. The massive influence required by both the magic and Muggle medias to uphold the secrecy surrounding the wizarding world from Muggle knowledge and instill a desire among the wizarding world to not associate with Muggles or use their technology is baffling. Sensationalizing an event distorts the truth behind the actual reality, deceiving and manipulating, causing harm to the community and ruining lives. This frequently occurs in our modern media, especially in politics. Skeeter is manipulative, deceitful, miscreant. Excuse me, Skeeter is a manipulative, deceitful miscreant, and a few other words I dare not mention. I knew a few people and lived with two siblings, both younger and older, just like Rita Skeeter. She slanders Hagrid in an attempt to discredit both Hagrid and Dumbledore in her article, Dumbledore's Giant Mistake. The article is inarguably prejudiced against giants and Hagrid for being half giant. The media knowingly attempts to use racial tension, stereotypes, and outright propaganda to manipulate public opinion and the government at times. It is also sometimes used by groups and individuals to stir up racial tensions in order to hinder progress in racial relations to preserve their own power, influence, and wealth. It is very probable that she writes with prejudice in order to fearmonger using lingering fears of giants within the wizarding community. She uses this fear to slander Hagrid while being fully aware of his gentle nature. Hagrid is undeserving of such blatant bigotry. This is similar to the anti-Muslim movement after 9/11 and the fear-mongering that followed. These magical races that continued to feel discriminated against may return to Voldemort. Her article is an irresolvable instance of sensationalism, purposefully omitting facts, no regard for thorough fact-checking, exaggeration, bigotry, and fear-mongering. Skeeter describes Hagrid as ferocious-looking and possessing a mysterious influence over Dumbledore. She exaggerates the extent of the injuries sustained by the students during Hagrid's course. Once she even insinuated that Hagrid has maimed several pupils, although her source was Draco Malfoy, who lied about his friend being bit by a flobberworm despite flobberworms not having teeth, and was known to be an unreliable and biased observer. Rita Skeeter did not even care about thoroughly fact-checking as long as the facts worked in her favor. In a similar fashion to how the media is commonly misused now by different political lobbies, Rita Skeeter slanders Hagrid because he would not give her any comments on Harry that could possibly be misconstrued as negative in any form in an interview conducted under the pretext of discussing magical creatures and his class. She uses her position to spite Hagrid and curtail Dumbledore's political influence among the Ministry. The media deposes opposing politicians of the political party that controls them by digging up people they may have had contact with before, prior, or fabricate stories causing the opposing politician or figure, such as a celebrity, to resign or step out of the spotlight. Recent examples include Herman Cain and Bill Cosby, strong black men with morals that are no longer so highly valued by the mainstream media. For example, Rita Skeeter said, disgraced ex-head of magical games and sports, Ludo Bagman, snappy start to a sentence, bozo. We just need to find a story to fit it. When she was at the Three Broomsticks, this is a clearly defined instance of muckraking and yellow journalism, for it implies that Rita Skeeter has no concern for the truth or the community because her only concern is increasing sales revenue and advancing political agendas, as well as her own career. During the section where Rita Skeeter interviews Harry for the Quibbler in Rowling's fifth book, Rita confirms Harry, Ron's, and Hermione's belief that Fudge has been leaning on the Prophet to suppress the reports of Voldemort's return and run anti-Dumbledore propaganda. Minister Fudge does this very successfully, for the most part, until Voldemort shows up in the Ministry of Magic, fighting with Dumbledore. Unfortunately, the mainstream media gladly works as the powerful politician's tool to manipulate the public, nor will it scream out the dire truth until it becomes irrefutable to even the most stubborn of our society. In turn, the media then becomes the vulture that pecks at the flesh of the public, preying on their fears. This is a phenomenon that the Romans knew all too well, as their masses were also mollified in a similar fashion as their media used to advance the political propaganda of the Roman emperors to undermine the weakened Senate. This is the summation of my paper. Unfortunately, there were a lot more thought-provoking material I was unable to use for the sake of keeping my paper concise and restraining my arguments to a reasonable length. J.K. Rowling asserts that the media is a determined force within a excuse me. J.K. Rowling asserts that the media is a detrimental force within a community. Muckrakers, journalists practicing yellow journalism are vile creatures that use the media's massive sphere of influence to manipulate the public. Prime examples in the Harry Potter series are Rita Skeeter and the Daily Prophet. In the Harry Potter series, the media is depicted as a selfish, influential, and manipulative entity of a malevolent nature. Muckrakers are the same in nature as dementors. They are soulless creatures whose only goal is seeking to suck out a person's life and soul, only leaving a husk of their former selves. Am I talking about dementors or muckrakers in that last clause? Don't worry about the answer. They are interchangeable and equally correct.